All right, let's talk a little bit about Brock Purdy's rehab. Brett Coleman, awesome. If you don't watch Brett Coleman stuff, you're completely missing out. I think Brett Coleman's great. He does a podcast called the Bootleg Podcast. I forget the name. EJ is his co-host, I think. Also really, really good. But every offseason they go through team by team and just break them down to the nth degree. I mean, they get gritty breaking down every team in the NFL, their chances to win the division, their chances to win a Super Bowl, and what have you. Last Second Sports is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Link is in the description. Promo code LSS. First time depositors using my link will receive a special pick plus up to $250 in bonus cash. Don't miss out. Click the link today. Thank you, Underdog, for being a sponsor. Now back to the video. And Brett Coleman dropped a little nugget during their 49ers episode. I watched this over the weekend. I don't know. I didn't think it was that big of news, so I just kind of kept it to myself. But today it's circulating, making big news that Brock Purdy was still rehabbing through November before he was fully right. And he was playing, and what a dog Brock Purdy is, which I agree. By the way, you don't have to add to the story of Brock Purdy to just say he's a dog. Like, we all know that about Brock. The fact that he even suited up week 1, he's a dog. Okay, you don't need to be like, hey, also he did this and add to the folklore to make him seem like more of a dog. We know that Brock Purdy's awesome. We know that he played through some tough stuff. The fact that he rehabbed all offseason just to make it to week 1 was phenomenal. We don't need to add to his story. It's fantastic as is. But I find this interesting. First of all, I'm not saying that Brett's lying. I think Brett certainly was told this in some form or fashion, and he just dropped it on the podcast like, oh no, this is cool. Like, this is normal here. But I think if this were true, first of all, I don't think that it is. Let me just say that. I think he was either given bad information, or maybe there was a game of telephone going on. I don't believe this to be the case. Because if it was the case, how bad does that look on the 49ers? The fact that you put the future of your team out there for a majority of the season, 10, 12 weeks, what have you, knowing he wasn't fully ready to go and he's still rehabbing, and just threw him to the wolves after essentially being the reason that he got his arm ripped off anyways. Like, that doesn't look good for the 49ers organization. So if it is true, the 49ers certainly did not want it to get out there. Okay, that's one. Number two, also, if it's true, all that's great. But Brock Purdy, even in this scenario, was more than ready to go come Super Bowl time, and the 49ers still didn't win the Super Bowl. So, awesome. The only person that this kind of boosts the story for is Brock Purdy, which, again, like I said, I don't think he needs boosting of any kind because he's already a G. Like, Brock Purdy's a G already for just making week 1. You don't need to add to that story. I think most likely there was some minced words and what happened with this. I mean, one thing we do know is the 49ers were very open about this, that they were going to have to give him rest time throughout the season. They were going to have to remember the deloading. Remember Brock Purdy's deloading, that whole conversation. They were very open about that. But somehow it got taken a step further that, oh, he was rehabbing through November. I don't believe that to be true. Again, I don't think Brett's lying at all. I think that was the information he was fed, or that's how he understood it. And I don't think he meant anything by it. He was just saying, listen, Brock Purdy's awesome. By the way, he was playing through all of this craziness, and he still was able to do his thing. I think the other thing that this doesn't impact is what we already thought would happen with Brock Purdy this offseason anyways, or through this season, which is Brock Purdy not having to rehab during the offseason means he can actually spend time getting better, and therefore he should be a better player. I think we all universally agree that Brock Purdy should be a better player this year over last year, knowing the circumstances as they already laid. And if this were true, certainly this adds to that, right? Like, okay, just more proof that he should be better this year, regardless of the statistics. What does it look like? Play in and play out. Brock Purdy should be a better player. So I don't know. I don't think that this changes much. Just putting it out there, like I said, I don't necessarily believe the story as it was told, but also I don't blame Brett. I think that's the way that he perceived the information or was fed the information, and he just simply put it out there. But I do highly recommend watching that episode anyways. And then the episode of every team in the NFC West. Those guys do a phenomenal job on the Bootleg podcast, breaking down every team and breaking down the NFC West. And if you really want to get a good picture of what to expect from the teams in the NFC West, I think they do a really, really good job. So shout out to them. And also, they are brought to you by my sponsor, which is Underdog Fantasy. Check the link in the description for your free pick, plus up to $250 in bonus cash. Link is also pinned to the top of the chat. Promo code LSS. That'll get you. You can either play fantasy football, which is what I do. The best kind, by the way. It's best ball. So you draft your lineup. You don't have to play with your lineup. It just takes the best players from each week, gives you the total, and you either win or you don't based off of that. So that's a season-long thing that you can do. Or you can simply do higher lowers. If you want to just, hey, I want to get into something this weekend, I want to do some higher lowers. Let's